Chapter 8.
The gentle touch of an iron fist.
Everybody stood before the galactic war map as Nott spoke to Pandura. Raise the Super Earth flag, kill a brood commander, upload escape pod data, pump some E-710, or rescue civilians. She nearly jumped at that idea.
Rescue mission.
Death replied.
A worthy choice, but no. That's the second most important mission available.
Pandura scowled.
How can not saving our own people be the top mission?
Nott answered. Because they are safe inside a fortified bunker with food. Our target will be the brood commander.
My blonde is blinding me. What?
Death explained.
Terminids come in two types, asexual and drones. But the brood commander is the closest thing to a queen they have. She lays eggs. That means this is an expansion of territory. It's a trivial mission now. But when those eggs hatch, the area will be overrun. Those bugs won't be so trivial at that point. Now here is your decision. Our 63 CS diligence counter sniper bullet to the head won't kill the commander outright. But the Terminid will bleed to death in about 2 minutes, or you might be able to put a few more in there to make it faster. Calling in an APW-1 anti-material rifle will guillotine the problem with one shot, but it has the same scope as the counter sniper, and what about the eggs? Technically not a part of the mission.
Nott interjected. Most bugs breathe through the sides of their abdomen, like if your lungs had nose holes between your ribs. The brood and alpha commanders have an additional airway just behind their head crest for their underground activities. While there, the brood commanders lay eggs for scavengers, pouncers, hunters, you name it. They'll put the eggs directly under her. Pandura countered.
Can't we just snipe all the Terminids we can and then advance to kill the eggs?
True. However, it's more efficient to kill both at the same time from a distance, and it's always better to have your enemy come to you. The Terminids will likely hunt for us when we wait for extraction. We can put them down then. But it still falls on you. Do we destroy the eggs?
As Pandura considered what Raven had said, she moved some hair out of her vision.
Yes. It's not the mission, but it is the real reason the mission exists. Orbital laser.
Death replied.
It's workable. We would glass her and the eggs if she doesn't move. We would also get closer than we would like, and that's a big cost stratagem for one bug. But if the brood commander is, let's say, sleeping or is just smart enough to not come out of the dirt, the targeting system won't find her.
The spear.
Nott replied. Good answer. Raven corrected.
If we can get a target lock.
Death nodded, then looked to Nott. Remember your training, and you will make it back alive. It wasn't long later that Pandura elevated up out of her hell pod, almost synchronized with the three chiefs. There was no doubt they had landed on the high ground. Raven immediately used the diligence counter-sniper to scope out the mission area firsthand. Death checked the short-range Helldiver radar on his inner forearm. Nott did a 360-degree turn, then radioed. Imminent. Clear. Death added.
Short range. Clear.
Raven somehow sounded even more cold-bloodedly bored on the burning hot sandy planet.
Passive contact. Bugs.
Raven's SA-25 steel trooper helmet with an advanced rangefinder made a noise.
South by southeast. 261 meters guards for the brood commander.
Raven put a marker on the squad's map.
She should be dug in there.
Nott ordered. Everybody take a knee. Pandura had listened to the planet's ecosystem description on the way down.
Irata Prime is one of 4 planets that reside within the Umlaut sector and is the hottest survivable planet. Its general landscape consists of barren deserts prone to unpredictably dangerous sand twisters and exhausting heat. The terrain alternates between vast stretches of sand and rocks. Most local flora comes in the form of dry grasses and prickly, unpleasant bushes. Frequent sandstorms decrease visibility to unacceptable levels. Citizens are advised to stay wary of occasional seismic activity, which may slow movement or cause injuries. Strategic importance, medium-low. Resources, large deposits of E710 and salt.
Pondura nearly giggled when Raven said,
Ollie Ollie Oxen Freedom. 282 meters dug in good.
he tagged the brood commander. This meant only its spine and the top of its crested head were out of the dirt. Death inputted the code for a spear stratagem and tossed it to Raven's left side. Nott kept his eyes on the map's radar since Death was busy. The stratagem landed and Death spoke to Pondura.
Just take the launcher, leave the backpack.
She did so and aimed toward the marker.
I can't get a lock.
Try higher ground.
We're on the highest.
She realized why Death had told her to leave the backpack in the hell pod. Had she taken it, it would have folded back into the grounded pod. Pondura got a bit of a running start and climbed on top of the mechanical pillar, then took the spear off her back and aimed again.
Still nothing.
Patience. It locks onto heat and movement. Just wait.
Raven commented.
I could always shoot it in the head and then have her blow it up.
Wait, I'm getting a lock.
Nott replied, "Fire for effect." The missile rocketed upward at a 45-degree angle for about half the distance, then changed trajectory 45 degrees and exploded the mission target.
You have been a stalwart line of freedom. Extract when ready.
Duke Raven spoke first.
We're 187 yards from extraction.
Death followed.
Looks like at least 3 points of interest along the way, but we'll have to split the squad for efficiency.
Nott finished the conversation. Death, take the cadet on the shorter route, then call it. Death took the backpack holding 3 homing missiles out of the stratagem, causing the equipment platform to fold back into the grounded hell pod. The cadet succumbed to gravity for a split second, but landing on her feet was in her blood. Death performed an assisted reload on Pondura's spear.
Weapons are always loaded. Don't be sure about this. Be deadly serious.
Pondura understood. On their way, they found a half-covered body bag in a grave and a dead gravedigger next to it. Next to him was a headless warrior terminid with a shovel stuck into its neck. Pondura raised her gun at the dead human body.
He moved.
Death walked up to the body, took a knee, and punched an uppercut into the chest cavity behind the ribs, into the heart. He pulled out a large grub or maggot-like terminid. Then he twisted off the head and squeezed out its brain. Pondura leaned back at the sight of that. Death then put the creature's main nervous system into his sample container. He evaluated the POI and took a breath.
He was just a man. Weak, scared, alone, no training, and his name will never be immortal on any wall. But he beat the ass off this roach with that shovel. He's an honorary Helldiver.
Death gave a precision salute to his newly named comrade. Pondura followed suit, and they continued to extraction. As they approached, Nott's voice went over the radio, calling in extraction. Death responded.
Affirmative.
Moments later, they arrived and Nott explained. Raven scoped the POIs. A hell bomb in a coffin locker. Death nodded. Raven's voice entered their helmets.
Active contact. 4 warriors leading 2 patrols and 6 of the commander's warrior guards.
Nott replied, Enjoy yourself, but save the small stuff for the cadets' target practice. Raven's monotone voice almost sounded like it was in stereo.
Peekaboo, I kill you.
Pondura expected to hear slow, controlled shots. Instead, Raven seemed to be trying to get the full 350 rounds per minute out of his R-63CS Diligence counter sniper. Less than 8 seconds later, Raven responded.
Only kickable creepy crawlers left. 10 or less.
Death turned to Pandura.
You're up, Democracy Officer.
Not retorted, just like the simulations. Pandura realized Not meant her opposition would be no real challenge. He was right. When she returned to the top of the extraction site, she was surprised. The Terminids were almost mindless in their aggression. No strategy other than to advance and use their claws. Raven pointed at the viscera on her left leg.
Not much to look at after you scrape them off your boot, but it's not like we don't have the time since Feckless Frank is going to eat a whole bag of super skitters by the time he lands.
Pandura used her cape to wipe off the oily fluids. The Pelican arrived after a total wait time of 3 relatively uneventful minutes. As they began to leave the planet, Knot took out his datapad and motioned for Pandura to do the same. She was shocked at what she saw. The other 3 members of the squad had defaulted their pay to be cut, and the full bounty for the mission would go to her. She was about to thank them when she noted that the cost of the single stratagem was 3 times the reward, and that was before splitting it 4 ways. She asked.
When do you see a profit?
Not answered. With a full team, level 7 difficulty missions, that is, unless you want to pump oil, steal dirt, or rescue citizens. In other words, all the non-combat missions. No irony in that, right? Chapter 9.
Brass tactics! Use 'em or die trying!
The squad ascended back into orbit. As Pandura sat to the right of Chief Duke Raven, she noticed he had modified his prosthetic arm and leg. There appeared to be a knife, an audio speaker, buttons, with many other minor additions, adjustments, and enhancements. Most notable were words that had most likely been carved with the leg knife into his right arm.
Et ascendit a terra in caelum, iterum descent interum, et recipit vim superiorum et inferiorum.
She pointed at the Latin.
What's that?
Raven responded.
A tattoo.
She dug deeper.
What does it mean?
Raven's body language showed he was uncomfortable.
As above, so below.
Pandura was about to ask another question when Not interrupted. Because a Helldiver should live by a code and die by a code. It's how you're true to yourself, how you live with yourself, and how you know thyself. There may be nothing but the present moment, but the end is important in all things. They exited Pelican 1, returned the spear and backpack to the stratagem supply sergeant, stepped upon a lift, and were brought out of the hangar bay to the main command deck level. Music and sparklers announced their victory, while salutes, a bow, and the flexing of a prosthetic arm physically celebrated the returning Helldivers. Not spoke to the squad. Fired or not, get every triggered weapon to the service technician for a look over. Nobody likes sand, it gets everywhere. They each handed over their primary and secondary weapons to Technician Elgrin. Pandura's helmet was still off, and she was last in the quay line. The service technician had never spoken to her, and took this opportunity to do so.
Helldiver! Every day you put yourself at risk to defend freedom and liberty, and I just want to say, thank you.
Pandura had never been thanked for being a Helldiver or a democracy officer. Emotion welled in her heart. There were no words that could communicate how gratitude could make the worst trials and tribulations worth risking your life over. To just have all of your caring and effort expressed in your work acknowledged by having someone care about you. Pandura had lost her words, so she saluted the service technician. At that moment, her body was there, but her mind and heart was with Isabel. As Pandora walked to the bridge, she put on her helmet. They didn't need to know her emotions or even guess what she was feeling at that moment. Back to the mission, back to the bridge. Death handed her a list of level 2 difficulty missions, listed as easy on a datapad.
1. Purge hatcheries. 2. Eliminate brood commanders. 3. Spread democracy. 4. Conduct geological survey. 5. Evacuate colonists. 6. Activate E710 pumps.
She said.
Let me guess, more brood commanders?
Death answered.
It can be. The brood commanders at this point are on their second egg-laying session of warrior terminids and below. Evacuating colonists, conduct geological survey, activate E710 pumps, and the multiple eradication mop-up mission of spread democracy is still within the SEAF capabilities. However, the hatcheries are heavily guarded, patrolled, and ready to breach the nest under it. The hatcheries are her third session, and she's already gone to find new territory. These ones are filled with Charger and Commander-level spore eggs. Just as the brood commanders are the escalation point for trivial missions, hatcheries are the escalation point for all missions above trivial. Level 9 missions that don't get those spore eggs purged end up as a mega nest. As of now, we can only solve that problem with an ICBM because we don't have Helldivers experienced enough to validate the risk.
Raven interrupted.
Stealth in. 380mm left side and walking barrage the right side. Have the swarm chase you through incendiary grenades into heavy turrets. Hold what you got.
Death corrected.
We don't have enough experienced Helldivers for command to issue the risk allowance yet.
Not pointed to the holographic map. We don't know the structure securing the eggs. Could be a walkway, could be a dead end. Any drop point around it could be solid. So 2 options. 1, we land, gear up, then make enough noise around the eggs for a controlled bug breach. Turn it into a stand-up fight and clear the area. Then we go count eggs before they hatch. Or 2, the way of the samurai is one of immediacy, and it is best to dash in headlong. Hot drop into the nest, destroy it so fast that the bugs can't keep up. Nothing with heavy armor expected, so we pop a Gatling sentry or 2 AMG 43 sentries when we bounce out. Your call, cadet. Pandora took a breath.
Controlled combat with full gear. I'd prefer to be patient, smarter and better armed, rather than faster.
Pandora was surprised to see Raven nodding his approval. Not continued. Regardless of our opening move, we go north, upload this escape pod's data, and then take out the secondary hatchery east by northeast. Same plan. Controlled combat, with your head on a swivel. Extraction due west, nothing fancy. Let's go, in and out 10-minute adventure. Raven corrected.
20 minutes with feckless Frank driving.
Pandora was about to ask what Raven meant, but not explained. It takes us about 1.5 minutes to get back up to the ship with a fully geared squad, but 2 to 3 minutes for Pelican 1 to get down to extraction empty. Raven's professional attitude finds this unacceptable, and although he's right, it will be the last time he complains about it in front of a cadet. Raven's microphone was off, but Pandora could still hear Raven sigh tersely through his filters as he nodded capitulation. Not made a selection on the hologram, then stopped leaning against the war map and began walking to the hellpods.
Mission coordinates locked. Hellpods primed.
All of them locked into position, then began selecting their gear and stratagems. Not spoke. You didn't need it last mission, but a rover pack would be a good move this time. Unless there is something you can't wait to try, I'll use your MG-43 no problem. But choose something that validates an empty pack slot, if you go that direction. There was something Pandora wanted to try, and this mission was easy enough to justify the training.
The lift 850?
Death chuckled.
Can't deny everyone is dead set on using that at least once.
Not replied. Hell, I was using the jump pack this morning. One by one, they each saluted in their pods to affirm their readiness. Not waited to be last so he could review the squad's loadout. When he saluted, he did it with a certainty of victory. Liberty launchers, locked and loaded. The hell pod's drop was imminent. Let's give 'em hell! Chapter 10.
Always be taking cover.
Not once again checked the squad's loadout before saluting. Kill anything with more than 2 legs, you get me? The Retrieve Valuable Data mission had been selected, so Pandora could get some computer and radar experience. They had landed at Extraction, an actual landing pad near a supply depot. Knott began fortifying the location. First, a guard dog rover for Pandora, a resupply pod, a heavy machine gun emplacement, and then he placed an MD-6 anti-personnel minefield over a loading ramp that was the only point of access to the landing pad. Knott hadn't covered that in the briefing, but the other two chiefs waited and noted the mines. They probably had seen this plan before. They all jumped off of the other side of the platform and began heading to the download station.
Get to the station, download the research database, and upload it to the Super Earth mainframe using the nearby satellite uplink station. 1. Activate terminal. 2. Use terminal to log into research database. 3. Use terminal to open data transfer slot. 4. Call down SSSD hard drive. 5. Insert SSSD hard drive into data transfer slot. 6. Use terminal to initiate emergency data backup. Database downloading takes 20 seconds to complete. 7. Use terminal to eject SSSD hard drive. 8. Collect the SSSD hard drive. 9. Transport SSSD hard drive to communications relay. 10. Place SSSD hard drive into communications relay data transfer slot. 11. Activate terminal. 12. Raise satellite dish on the tower. Raising the dish takes 25 seconds to complete. 13. Manually realign the satellite tower if needed. 14. Upload data to Super Earth mainframe. Database uploading takes 40 seconds to complete. 15. Use terminal to wipe sensitive by imputing an 11 directional long code.
What information are we uploading?
Knott replied, Probably super porn, formicopophilia. That's why we wiped the browser history at the end. There was a silent pause. Just kidding. It's part of a blueprint for a battle exosuit. Knott showed the completed suit on his datapad. On the way back to Extraction, they had Pandora activate the LiDAR station. Raven informed,
Normally when you have a LiDAR station you want to hit every POI since you already know where they are, rather than hunting them down.
The squad did so efficiently by splitting into 2 teams. Pandora took point and went with Raven this time. She did most of the shooting. Raven killed anything flanking her. The Terminids had a nasty tactic of burrowing underground and ambushing you from behind. Pandora netted a tidy sum of over 100 super credits. As they rendezvoused back to the Extraction, Death called in a resupply next to the side of the landing pad. He said to the cadet,
Leave mine.
Everybody else took a resupply pack out of the hell pod. Not pulled himself on top of the pod and then climbed up to the extraction site. As the rest of the squad followed his path, Knot called in extraction and put down more mines. He turned to Raven. 102.3, please. Bug patrols started approaching the team. Death said,
I got 10 credits one of them makes it through.
Knot shook hands with Death, and Helmet bumped to solidify the bet. Pondura checked the radar to see a lot of red and piped in.
I got it for 250 super credits.
The squad was a bit shocked. Knot huffed and then held out his hand to shake. Easy money for one of us. Pondura shook on it and replied,
The only good bug is a dead bug. But bugs that kill themselves are the best.
You're now listening to 102.3 Helldive FM, where we spread nothing but democracy, and more democracy. This ain't your Crowley station.
It wasn't long afterward. Pondura found herself back in a hell pod with double her credits. Knot stated his loss was his own fault. He would have won if he had used incendiary mines. She mentioned to Raven that she thought Knot would have been more of a sore loser given the amount of credits. Raven told her that Knot had over 25,000 super credits. That put things into a different perspective why he ran 2 trivial missions a day. Raven saluted and said,
Pro ira, ruinender or rubra, libertas aut mortem.
Knot replied, Retribution is at hand. Let fury guide our weapons. Let vengeance be your song. Knot saluted, Be it by blade, bullet, or beam, let none survive your wrath. They dropped feet first into a trap where they were the bait. Knott's briefing included the combat location was an extraction point. Their formation would be on high ground southwest of the landing pad. There was some kind of shin-high greenhouses placed there. The medium level 3 eradication mission had been for maximum body count. Not that the last mission didn't have enough to shoot, but the eggs before didn't fight back. And that was her role in that operation. Worse off, she didn't get any kill counts for the eggs. Next was her first eradication mission. Pondura was expected to do the mission herself. The chiefs were just there to cover her flank. Pondura's turrets did almost all the work during the eradication. If this was a chess game, it would have been a queenside castling from the Terminids' viewpoint. They were fortified before the Terminids were ready. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start. Bullet storms entered insect foreheads as soon as they lifted out of the ground. The mission was more like waiting for the Terminids to volunteer their deaths to Pondura's quota. 8 samples and 1 Pelican 1 later, they began lifting away from the planet. Death noted Pondura had a kill count over 100, and that meant the only wetness behind her ears was Terminid blood. Knot had asked Pondura her full name. Then Raven had given her the call sign Angel, because her last name wasn't obvious enough of a reason, and divine beings on Earth were said to be created by parthenogenesis, just like Faunus, according to Knot. It was a dry jest at best, but one she liked, or at least could grow on. The name also felt like it belonged with the kind of names the rest of the squad had. Death asked,
Raven, play us some music, please.
Raven pressed a button, then adjusted the frequency selector inside his prosthetic arm.
Comical radio. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow. Comical radio. Bow, bow, bow.
Raven shouted.
Not that.
Raven adjusted the radio receiver.
Where we playeth nothing but chance, chance, and more chance! This are not thine elder matriarch station.
They exited the Pelican, and the lift ascended them to the typical fanfare. Death voiced reason.
That's more than quota for missions instead of 3. Let's all hit the bunk.
Not offered, or you could run another trivial with me for the exercise. Raven shook his head and pointed to his fabricated limbs. Death, on the other hand, said,
I'll go with you. You can even watch my back. But you, Cadet Angel, get some rest. You're probably already sore and don't know it.
Angel wanted to go, especially if it meant another use of the jump pack. However, she knew Knot would be doing a warm-up run tomorrow morning. She could have her fun then. She needed to be resting so she could sleep sooner. After all, Helldivers kept their own hours. Chapter 11.
The Federation of Super Earth.
Aboard Macat's SES, Sword of the People, Commander Rod snatched Macat's datapad and started reading it.
Then freedom fell from heaven and burned up the large beasts and the scavenger serpents and consumed them. And I alone have extracted to tell you, I have seen the light of liberty make ashes of our enemies. Is that from the Bible?
Then his buddy Badger said,
That sounds good, but I actually read that in Goopy's voice.
Then freedom fell from heaven and burned up the large beasts and the scavenger servants and consumed them. And I alone have extracted to tell you, I have seen the light of liberty make ashes of our enemies.
Macat took back his datapad and continued his daily reading of one chapter, trying not to think about the biblical accuracy of the voice. Hades, feeling more like a mailman than a Helldiver, was finishing the mission to retrieve the basic AI program and was sending it out. He decided to check his own mail and found he had a message from Death's lover. He thumbprinted it and received the usual salutations audio file.
You son of a bitch!
The letter was about Space Cadet Angel's training. The message was long and covered almost 2.5 days. Over the course of her missions to raise her difficulty allowance, Pandora learned that Hades and Death's lover had been childhood friends on Super Earth that joined up together. Death had been the first to thaw out with a new ship, and after checking once didn't bother to look for Hades, knowing he would find him. Macat had been frozen since the First Galactic War, and didn't bother talking about his past, or with call signs. Macat's rank 35 squad specialist was reassigned to Marshal Macat. His overwhelming ammo mindset and Chief Death's unending ammo tactics made them quick comrades during the dark hours of Malevelon Creek. especially once Macat learned that the Lady Liberty faith was still active in Helldivers like Death's Lover and Hades. Hades had been dropped into combat on the second battle for Angel's Venture, same as Not. Apparently Hades never wears a helmet, says,
It's a distraction.
an interesting fact since Death's Lover never takes off his helmet. When Not first met Hades, he was completely out of ammo for his MG-43 machine gun, LAS-5 scythe, and GP-31 grenade pistol. First thing he said to Not was,
I need 3 more clips of 5.56, 8 grenades, and an extra battery.
Not was originally a native of Angel's Venture, so they stayed until the planet was liberated, also to earn the titles Avengers of Angel's Venture. A popular trend at the time, since the title of Creek Crawler was given to those that fought at Malevelon Creek. Not is not sure when, but at some point Raven saved their lives from over 250 meters away, and just ended up being welcome to stay. So he did. Raven had been running solo stealth missions, but realized that he could only do so much alone. He tried to find someone else that favored stealth to team up with, and had 3 comrades die before he joined as a supplemental to the squad. According to Knot, each member of the squad didn't just have their own fighting style, they also have different fighting mentalities and methodologies that reflect their weapon choice and usage, making their weapons a part of their identities as living weapons. Raven fights ice cold, so his shots never miss. Death is laser focused and runs hot. Hades fights numb to the destruction and deaf to the explosions he creates. Not said, Hades sounds like he's drunk when he's sober, and sober when he's drunk, because power is his real addiction. Macat is impatient to the point he'll do things himself, viewing his turrets like subordinates. Pandura asked,
What is your fighting style, Not?
He replied, shapeless and formless, like the oblivion I send my enemies unto. But my personality is like Raven's and Macat's. We're knights in sour armor. In fact, all of us are members of the Lady of Liberty faith because we're all hollow in some way. Pandura asked,
How so?
Not answered. Hades understands that life isn't fair, but the Reaper doesn't discriminate. Even the Eldritch monsters and the ancient titans fell according to the old stories. I think that is his last hope, that somehow, some way, there's something fair about our lives or after our lives end. Makes having your name on a wall that will exist as long as mankind exists appealing. I think that is why many warriors of the ancient ways became poets. Their lives needed to be like a jinsei poem, a form of haiku. Simplicity and brevity, with focus on the imminent, immediate, and inevitability of death, accepting life's impermanence, because if they couldn't achieve the honor of death in battle, they could at least make what they learned staying alive seem beautiful. Pandura wondered.
Can't life and death be both?
Not looked her in the eyes. Do you believe in destiny? Because I know for a fact that time is on a closed loop. You have transfinite choices and chances to change nothing. She countered.
Even if that is true, that doesn't make anything you do meaningless.
Not was silent for a moment. That's a pretty good point, Cadet. Feel free to promote yourself. Hades finished reading the long letter. He handed it to Macat for reading, but was surprised when a moment later he didn't hear the insulting greeting. Instead, he heard music. Chapter 12.
They fight for freedom. Will you?
It had taken 72 hours. A real, on the clock 72 hours. But she was finally here. This moment was the real deal. This moment is when she truly earned her cape. Not spoke. Usually the good goddess works in mysterious ways, but not today. This here is 2,002 tons of freedom ready to fire divine intervention. If Lady Liberty is love, you are now about to be Cadet Cupid. The anticipation is palpable, isn't it? When you have finished savoring the moment, you may have the honor of pressing the button. The SH-32 will allow you to keep a safe front row seat. Don't worry about your eyes. The helmet will tint out the brighter than bright. Pandora was almost giddy. One push of a button, and she would launch an ICBM.
Wait.
She was almost breathless with her realization.
Super Earth isn't going to bill me for the missile, are they? Or what it blows up?
It was the first time she had heard Raven laugh. Death reassured her.
No. Show them the light angel.
A Claxton alarm sounded, the beginning of a 10-second countdown. Everyone except the democracy officer decreased their proximity from the unofficial ultimate stratagem.
Freedom marches onward. Thanks to you. You may proceed to extraction.
Rare sample acquired. Freedom forever!
Not saluted and declared victory. Pandora and the rest of the squad saluted the explosion. She would be allowed to lead level 7 difficulty missions once back to her ship. Not got everybody back on track. Democracy is not done with us yet. Stay on target, stay frosty. Death spoke.
I've got radar contact behind us.
Angel replied.
Hunters, I got them.
Angel unslung her FLAM-40 flamethrower and didn't bother aiming for the swarm. Instead, she covered a swath of the rocky khaki-colored ground with Helldiver Hellfire and stayed on the move. The Terminids half jumped, half glided into the fire in mindless hive mind pursuit, ending in them becoming ashes. Not alerted. Bug breach, forward, clear. Death reported.
I've got nothing on radar.
Raven informed.
One of the jumpy bastards didn't stand in the fire.
Angel questioned.
Can we outrun them?
Raven said.
They'll smell they're dead and follow our tracks from that.
Not translated. It's not an if, but a when they catch up. Extraction signal will bring them anyway. They had all lost the stamina to run at that moment. Not spoke with his last good lungful. Stim! They all did so, despite not being injured. Stamina rushed into their veins, and their pace redoubled. The extraction site had a building almost in the middle of it. with the extraction beacon between that and 3 boulders. The center one, almost like stairs, had been carved into it. Maybe it had. As they approached the side without the beacon, Raven coded in for an A/ARC3 Tesla tower stratagem, and then tossed it behind his back like it was a wad of paper. Raven gave a just so you know tone.
Dropping an electric fence without defense.
That side of the extraction was now an indiscriminate kill zone. At the beginning of the mission, Knot had placed a resupply at the base of the climbable center boulder and an EMG-101 HMG emplacement at the top of it. Knot repeated the extraction formation that he had already gone over space side. Angel, take samples. Prep for cooking the choke points. Death, the gun. Raven, high ground. Knot dropped his sample container, and the others created a pile for Angel to combine while Knot coded in extraction. Knot had insisted if she was going to use the Flam 40, she needed an SH-32 shield generator pack to safely get that close to the enemy. Since she didn't have the rank clearance to use one yet, she traded a guard dog stratagem with Knot to safely burn bugs behind a shield. That also made her the safest place to hold the 32 samples they had acquired. When Angel looked up, Death was scanning for targets on the emplacement gun, and Raven was crouched atop one of the previously believed unclimbable boulders behind her. He updated.
They're heading toward Death's side. If I kill one now, they'll change direction to the tower.
Knot didn't hesitate. Heard the herd. Fire. A round rang out, and far off a high-pitched death squeal sounded. Raven confirmed success.
Freedom has a nice ring to it, and a bit of recoil.
Knot pointed for Angel to watch that area's access point. Short seconds later, a crackling sound kept killing terminids. Death stated the extraction time.
1.5.
A light thumping sound started to grow louder from the north. Death called out.
Big red radar.
Raven swiveled his scope, but didn't get the warning out in time. The building was rent asunder, flying away in all directions from the ancient rhinoceros-looking terminid. Knot dove to the side, despite not actually being in the stampeding terminid's path. While in mid-air, he threw and stuck a G-123 thermite grenade to the bug's back leg. The charger began climbing the boulder to crush Death's lover. He abandoned the EMG-101 and dived off the small summit, slightly injuring his left arm. The charger destroyed the emplacement, ramping off the granite rock, and landed below unharmed. Death, still prone, rolled to a kneeling position and began charging up his LAS-99 quasar cannon. At the same moment, Raven pulled the pin on a G-23 stun grenade and tossed it under the charger. An electrical shock stopped the bulky bug dead in its track. The thermite grenade detonated, shattering the charger's back leg armor. Death's cannon reached maximum charge and fired automatically, vaporizing the creature's leg off and continuing into its unarmored rear, destroying that as well. Gallons upon gallons of thick green future biofuel bled out of the downed insect tank. A greenish-yellow fog silently rolled in. Nobody noticed a nursing spewer had tiptoed behind Angel. A wash of acidic stomach fluid poured out and over her shield. She turned, leveling her AR-61 tenderizer, with a righteous fury.
Oh, you did not spew that green Slurpee at me.
Half a magazine later, the hot air balloon-like tick popped. There was a moment of silence, an electrical calm before the storm. Then the mild earthquake began. Nott checked the radar and saw nothing but red. Put in your butt plugs, shit's about to drop. The horror of man's insignificance made manifest rose as though out of the grave of forgotten fear. 2 bile titans, worthy of their name, in size, had ascended out of the dark hell of this world to kill citizens of Super Earth. The resupply wasn't close to anyone. Death's Laz 99 was still cooling down. Raven didn't have the right angle for a shot. Angel's shield was borderline spent, and she would have to get close to burn the bug down. Nott had just tossed his last thermite, and his commando was only half loaded. Monstrous mountains from out of the closet of a colossus roared battle cries. The timer had 30 seconds left till extraction arrived. Nott spoke with the resolve of Duke Raven and the determination of Death's lover. Warm it all up! Everything you've got! Death was the closest. He leapt to his feet and threw 2 impact grenades at the chest of the first Titan. The underbelly stomach sac exploded, raining down the Titan's internal fluids, rendering it incapable of relching anything up as a liquid weapon. Nott had the same idea, shooting his remaining commando rockets into the second monstrous insect's chest. The smell alone might have been able to permanently damage human lungs. Death still had the attention of the Titan on the right. He ran and did evasive maneuvers between the stabbing blades of the Insectosaurus. Raven radioed.
Death, hold position.
Death let out several pejorative words over being the bait. The radio called out twice.
Calling an orbital strike.
3-story tall, bladed legs began to stab the ground like a vicious dance as Death did a full turn, then ran under the Titan. Death wasn't running from the Titan at this point. He was running from 2 red lasers coming from stratagems. Then one laser adjusted aim on the Titan from above. A low buzz followed by a thump sound as Raven's orbital rail cannon strike punched through the titanic armor, just as an atmospheric sonic boom rattled the skies. Luckily, the beastly insect staggered long enough to get blasted a second time from Angel's orbital precision strike. The beast let out a muffled roar as its own blood dampened its death rattle. Nott shot 2 grenade pistol rounds at the charging horror. The roles were reversed. He was insect-sized to the Bile Titan. 2 shots like breaking rocks, followed by a high-pitched metal vibration, sounded from Raven's APW-1 anti-material rifle into the creature's head to no avail. A click reminded Raven he hadn't reloaded in a while. Death was too far away, and his cannon was still on cooldown. Angel was charging toward with her Flam 40, but she might as well have been across the map. Nott was a second away from being cleaved in half. The Tesla tower behind him blocked any chance of retreat, with deadly watts and killer volts. The no-win scenario Nott cautioned about had arrived in full force for him. and he was ready for the end of his story to be written. To him, this was a good death, fighting till the end, a worthy opponent death, and a death he could even joke about on the other side. Killed by a moth, a behemoth, but still a bug. 3 cracking sounds, like the eggs of Rodan, thundered and lightened as Pelican 1 entered the atmosphere. The Bile Titan made a high-pitched death rattle, as though a banshee brought back to the brimstone. Not spoke. Thus the demonic defilers were cast back to the cursed ground of thorn and thistle, unto sandy dust by the orbital extraction bird of paradise. Death added.
Liberty be praised.
Raven pushed a button on his arm.
Where's the giant, Mansley?
Angel cut in.
Not, are you alright?
He replied, well, to quote Hades, I'm not drunk, so I could be better.
This is Pelican 1. I have visual on the extraction zone. Pelican 1, landing sequence initiated. Watch where you're standing.
Not called out. Angel, samples first, double time. Not covered the other 2 as they got in, making himself the last to leave.
Extraction complete. Pelican 1 beginning ascent.
Not looked to Raven. Does this mean you're going to thank Frank for saving our hides?
Last I checked, this is a thankless job. That's all he did, his job.
Not silently smirked, and they all checked their data pads. Seeing their mission graded was a form of proof they had made a difference. Angel broke the silence.
Guys,
They all looked to her.
I pulled up and filled out the paperwork so you and your 2 other friends can formally request to be listed as a Helldiver division.
They each had the signature paper appear on their screens. Off on another world, the same data sheet waited on Hades and Makat's datapads. Death spoke.
Thanks, Angel. We can think up a name later. This is your celebration time.
Not interrupted. That's right. Party Pelican time. Democracy Doloritos, Liberty Lazies, Justice Jerky, Patriot Peanuts, Freedom Funyuns, and we'll wash it down with Helldiver Hooch, Long Island Liberty, and wartime whiskey. Angel took off her helmet and smiled.
Thanks, but no. Save that for a real liberation victory. I've got to get the ball rolling on submitting my radio broadcast idea to the Ministry of Truth. I've learned so much in that combat experience, along with keeping Helldivers informed of the current state of this unofficial galactic war needs to happen. Democracy officers hold a lot of information they don't share and should. One Helldiver could message me and I could tell everybody by audio. We don't all have time to stop, and read the war map messages. In fact, one of my first observations was that a Helldiver could be illiterate and still kick butt, but...
Raven replied.
We'll always have a place open waiting for your return.
They each spoke their farewell in turn. Liberty light your path.
Liberty light your path.
Liberty light your path.
With the hellfire of freedom.
Epilogue.
Skepticism is treason. Treason is bad.
Service technician Clarence Neanders continued the conversation.
There might be a lot of automatons, but at the end of the day, they're just a bunch of mass-produced walking scrap. Every Helldiver is an army of 1, but 4 of them on a team, that's 4 armies. So, who really has the numbers advantage?
Yeah. I just feel like there's a way that we could fix them, repair them, like, maybe program them to work for us.
Sometimes, as a technician, you gotta realize when something's beyond repair. When it comes to these automatons, there's no fixing them. Only solution is to wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, you're probably right. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, I've got some leave coming up. Get to head back home to Super Earth, see the wife and kid.
I can't wait to get home again. It's the little things you miss, you know? Like sitting in candlelight on Heroes Day, chanting with my family and renewing our vows of citizenship together.
Commander, you're needed at the bridge.
Gotta go.
Commander Goman had offered to work the night shift aboard a friend's ship. He owed her one favor at least, not that Helldivers counted that kind of thing. He began walking to the bridge of the SES Bringer of Mercy. He was asked if he could wake Pandora, the radio angel, for her morning shift, and if he would be so kind as to provide her with a datapad containing her text mail. The commander did so, and went to hit the bunk harder than an automaton's backside. The angel was not of the morning light kind in any context of the words. She decided to wait until her alarm clock played before getting up.
High in the sky, in the heat of the fight, there's a heroine soaring with all her might. Eagle One's the name, and she's always on cue. With bombs and rockets, she'll see it through. Eagle One, I've got it in a bow. In the name of freedom, she'll show her love with a 500-kilo bomb and a rocket's roar. She defends our cause forevermore, forevermore.
She pressed the silence button next to 3 books that were written to be as honest as possible. Friday, Stranger in a Strange Land, and Starship Troopers. Super Caffeine Calf was this engine's E710. She picked up and equipped the Lady of Liberty faith pendant she displayed inside her coffin locker when not wearing it. She had lost her mother's original during the Mars training. This one had been sent to her by the Liberty Legion, a thank you for helping create their division. Half blurry-eyed, she checked if the top message was from Isabel. It was. She adjusted the settings to have the important messages filtered to the top long ago.
In the realm of the sky where the stars dare to weave their secrets, there lives a being, an ethereal embodiment of light and grace, and known as the Angel of the Airwaves. With wings like the softest whispers of dawn clouds, they glide through the heavens, their presence as delicate and as radiant as a fleeting comet. This celestial being carries the weight of worlds upon their shimmering shoulders, but they move with such elegance that it appears as though they are untouched by time or burden. Their eyes, deep as the vastness of the night sky, gleam with an ancient knowledge, seeing past the fabric of mortal lives, peering into the very essence of souls. Yet in their gaze there is not judgment, but understanding, a kind wisdom that transcends the limitations of human perception. Every flicker of their wings, every step they take upon the clouds is as they are dancing with the universe itself, an eternal waltz of creation and destruction, love and sacrifice. Your Isabel.
She accessed the next message. What she saw was almost as jolting as her beverage. This message held 2 super secret clearances, had no listing or originating location, time sent, and the author was Error 404, Helldiver not found. Her thumbprint opened the text document.
1. Title: No Place for Disgrace. Silent winds sweep through the trees. Honor fills death's place. G say. Beautiful the dawn. Rays dance on the morning dew. Still, we are all slave. Life blooms, then it fades. Every joy leads to silence. All ends with the grave. Storms of thought collide. Waves of fate crash, undefined. Chaos breathes in haiku. Time loops, unbroken. Choices drift in endless dance. Change, yet none is new. Gods weep, stars decay. Fate crumbles, lost in the dark. Destiny falls. Hellfire scalds the soul. Ashes fall from pleading lips. Oblivion calls.
The Angel of the Airwaves read the long Jinsei poem with a slight confusion. She wasn't versed in haiku well enough to make them, but found this rhyming poem made out of haikus a brilliant use of the art form, even before attaching the meaning behind it. But who had sent a samurai death poem to her, and why? Then it hit her. This message was a beacon for a thought, a mental stratagem using these words as the code. Her Lady of Liberty pendants were quantum entangled, connecting the minds that wore them. Her mind open to receive a message from the lifeless void beyond her ship's bulkheads, communicating what she actually needed to read, to see, to hear, and to know. Out of the ether mist of infinite darkness, straight to her conscience, a single thought poured into a framework of symbology to craft out of water one stone solid word: limbic. The radio angel felt almost possessed to run a search for the word.
The limbic system helps regulate emotion, memories, learning, emotional intelligence, strong motivational behaviors and social processing. It is not where memories, focus or the emotions are generated in the brain, but where they are regulated or controlled. It consists of structures that lie beneath the outer, wrinkly part of the brain and is part of the hippocampus. Critical to overall mental health, its interconnected structures located deep within the brain that controls emotional and behavioral responses, such as feeding, caring for young, and fight or flight responses in life or death situations. The limbic system also regulates other motivations, smells and autonomic behaviors.
Pandura felt she had read enough. This was too much, even for a Monday morning disguised as a Thursday. The definition didn't answer any questions. It didn't even give her enough to ask a tangential question. Her curiosity was spent, and she had a radio broadcast to do this afternoon. November the 5th was tomorrow, and she didn't have anything for it. Not to mention, it would be a while before she could top a top 10 list of funny general brash facts. The major order was a failure, one that would be reflected in her pay. Not to mention, she needed to get out a message to her silent partners. No intrusive thoughts derailing her from the war effort, regardless of how poetic they were crafted. She walked to the bridge and looked at the black hole called Meridia, and began to think. But had Pandora continued to the hypothetical section of the hippocampus and limbic system, a few more digital pages down that rabbit hole, she would have seen.
The limbic system is often associated with the concept of psychic energy in the sense that it is the neural network responsible for processing emotions into thoughts and actions. Sometimes said energy is described as non-scientific in contexts, however, it's important to note that psychic energy has been proven real and measurable since the discovery of the Illuminate, and this energy can take many implied forms just as there are many types of emotions. Super-Earth has scientifically validated the hippocampus and limbic system as purely biological structures with measurable functions related to emotional states known and yet undiscovered.
Pandora the radio angel had not read this. Instead, she stared at the void of Meridia and listened to the silent screams of this lost world. A reminder that the price of failure was eternal. This has been Angel of the Airwaves, a Helldivers 2 project featuring Pandora, the Radio Angel, and Hell Commanders of the Liberty Legion. Cameo from Commander Rod, Goman, and Badger. Written by Lumenaught. Narration created by the author. I do not hold or own any rights to the Helldivers franchise. This has been a non-profit creation. Please donate to the Arrowhead-approved Save the Children charity organization. The author hopes you have enjoyed this program.